Welcome to the Man Sports Fan Podcast. We're back from hiatus, feeling good. Got a lot of Thanksgiving meal in our bones. Guys, happy belated Thanksgiving. I'm so glad the gang got back together. How are you all?
Loving life. So happy to see everyone's face here. Just want Hayden to unmute. Want to hear his beautiful voice.
Hit the wrong button. Figured it out.
He's too busy into the music. The intro.
Yeah, that was a great intro.
Yeah, we should do that every time.
Absolutely.
We should.
That is so nice.
That was awesome.
Shit.
Yeah. Being here, excited to be back. It's been a while, but it almost gets me excited. Like, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. We're getting the band back together.
Oh, yes.
Kind of a
It's
new
coming
energy,
together.
you know? I can feel it in you guys.
It feels good.
Cool. Well, again, like we said, happy belated Thanksgiving. It's worth asking you all, what is your favorite Thanksgiving-related food?
So, my normal favorite Thanksgiving food, I'm not going to be general here, Chris. I'm going to be specific, is normally mashed potatoes. But I went with the gravy this year. The gravy was just beautiful. It put everything together, brought all the food together. It wasn't lumpy. It was smooth. It was savory. It's class.
Question real quick. How many different items of food do you put gravy on?
I could probably put gravy on just about everything, but for sure your turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, at least the three. And a veggie. If you got a veggie, put it on.
Good man. Good man.
Do you go brown or white?
The only option was brown. I would probably always go brown. A white, I don't know if I trust a white gravy thing.
That's for biscuits.
True that.
I've had a mean white gravy on a Thanksgiving day and felt pretty good about it.
From the South there.
Yeah, the gravy's a good pick. It's hard to follow that. But call me a traditionalist. Give me a slice of pumpkin pie, some whipped cream on top, and because it's the only time of year I have it. So it's good. It's always good. Even if it's from Costco, it's still good.
You don't go to the Norsky Nook over in DeForest?
Ooh.
Expensive.
It'll probably sell out.
What is it? Is it like $30 for a pie?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It gets up to like $50, depending on what you get. So we haven't ordered that.
What are you doing in the forest? What?
Inflation. Thanks a lot, Biden.
God.
I'm kidding. This is a pro-Biden podcast.
We're just pro every candidate in this podcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody.
Pro America.
How do we get here already?
We can edit that out.
I gotta say, stuffing. I don't have it often, really at all, except for Thanksgiving, and it's always a treat. Second place is definitely mashed potatoes and gravy. And I gotta give a shout out to my younger brother for cooking a fantastic smoked turkey on his, I think he has a pit boss. Fantastic smoked turkey this year, Billy. Good job.
Like,
Love you, Billy.
So this is apparently like a tradition. Everybody loves it. I've never got into it, but I tried it this year. Sweet potatoes, just straight up, like cook the sweet potato, peel the skin off, eat it. And it was very good. I was a very big fan. The texture was nice. I still do love the mashed potatoes, but this year I tried something new. I put sweet potatoes on the plate, and I really enjoyed it.
No marshmallows. Keep those marshmallows away.
Get that out.
Disgusting.
Just bake the sweet potato and give it to me.
Thank you.
I'm glad you said that because I'm going to go against what you just said, which is not uncommon on this podcast.
Classic.
So
Oh, yeah.
it's
Go walk
a
it.
sweet potatoes mashed, right? Kind of a base layer in a pan. You do kind of crushed up roasted pecans in like layers kind of across. And then in the other spaces, you put marshmallows. And you put that that in the pan.
wow.
It is incredible.
Is that is that like a candied yam? Is that what that is considered? Or is that different?
Candied yams are different, but there is a candy feel to this dish.
Okay. That sounds not good. But respect to you, brother. For
If you're ever in Colorado for Thanksgiving, or we're up in the good old Eau Claire, I'll have you come over. Maybe I'll just send you guys. I would literally meet you in Toma or maybe the Dells, so that you would try this.
I'll meet you in
Okay.
Toma to dump it out.
Toma,
If you're going to that length,
Shouts out to
I'll
Toma.
at least try
I
it.
do like
I'll
Shouts
at
out
least
to
try it.
Toma.
We love Toma, Wisconsin. Yeah, I didn't had it until I got married to Emily, and she makes it like every year, and I'm a changed man because of the dish.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
now that we've all spoken, what's something in sports that you've watched over the last month? Just something that you're thankful for in sports.
The teaser for my segment later on, the college football playoff. We've been talking about it forever. I think different administrations have joked about trying to get this in and whatnot. I'd have to go back and look, but we've been on this for at least over a decade. Where whatever championship game, we've had the Final Four, and now we finally have a playoff. We're not worried about the 4th or 5th seed, who gets in and somebody gets snubbed. You're going to get 12 solid teams in. I don't think there's going to be much controversy. I mean, somebody will always complain being a bubble team getting left out, but you got 12 teams. I don't think there's much doubt here. You're going to get 12 of the best teams in college football. You're going to really see a playoff here, and I think you're going to see whoever wins this is really going to, I think, be put on a different pedestal of being the champion of college football. This isn't about bias here. This is about are you one of the elite college football teams right now, and I think we're going to get to see this go down here coming up in the new year, and I think it's going to be really exciting, and I think it's going to really bring out the ratings. I'm really excited to see just the energy around this.
Yeah, Brem, when I was a freshman in college, English class, I wrote a persuasive essay on why they should do a college football bracket, essentially. So it took a little while. We got her done. I'm thankful for college basketball tournaments this time of year. If you're not watching college basketball this time of year, you are totally missing out. Like, this rivals March Madness because the matchups are so good. And there's more tournaments than there's ever been before. The matchups are like, these teams want to play each other. Whereas, like, I feel like 10, 15 years ago, they didn't want to have all these blips on the radar early, but it's all about just strengthening your schedule. And there's been some amazing games to start the year. And it's a great way to spend the holiday weekend just watching basketball till midnight, 1 o'clock.
We'll talk about this a little bit later, hopefully, but I'm thankful that the Milwaukee Bucks aren't a train wreck at the moment and appear to have righted the ship.
Man, I mean, as easy as it is to say, like, I'm just thankful I get to watch football every Sunday all day. I'm kind of just, like, glad that the Badger football team is just kind of done because I'm sick of watching how absolutely atrocious they were. So I'm like, as shitty as that streak is that we lost. Sorry for cussing, but as much of a bummer as it is that we lost that, what was it, 23 years of like a winning record, but it's done. We don't have to think about it anymore. On to the next.
Yeah, Chris took mine, but I have two backups. One, that UConn lost 3 games in a row for men's college basketball. I just loved that. Not that I don't respect them, not that I don't like them, but I just was really glad they started that way. I just really was. But more so, I'm actually excited I'm really thankful for snow football games. Because watching the Browns and the Steelers was incredible. Watching the Bills 49ers was awesome. Man, there's something about snow football games that are so much fun. So, well, guys, we're all thankful. It's really good. So, season of gratitude. Speaking of, thinking about the transition to Christmas, right? When is the appropriate time to start listening to Christmas music?
So I'm going to give a 2-part answer because that's what I do here. So I normally would always be on the side of you have to wait until after Thanksgiving. Anything before Thanksgiving is blasphemous. You should just cut it out. You should close your ears. You should not listen to it whatsoever. This year, though, just my mood and just I think where the season is at. We haven't really had the cold weather. I don't know if we get snow in Wisconsin anymore. Whatever. I said this year, turn it on, crank it up, who cares? So maybe it's a 1-year exception, but this year I said go for it. Listen to Christmas music whenever you want.
Let there be joy. Having kids really blurs the line on this for me. But I'm going to go December 1st. I feel like the calendar has to turn to December, and then you can go all in. But I can start to see the argument earlier. I'm just not there.
I say November 1st, but my sister-in-law, Kate Kubachek, would say that you could listen to Christmas music in July. So, who knows?
Man, I think whenever your household decides to put the Christmas tree up, I think you're definitely good to go. But usually you're pretty safe the day after Thanksgiving. I think you're fine. Christmas isn't getting pretty good nowadays, too, though. Like, some actual legitimate good songs that are Christmas themed, so I don't mind it too much anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with the Flame. We do what's called a soft launch, November 1st, where we do music and we do movies. Emily will start bringing out the Christmas sweaters about a week later. Traditionally, I was day after Thanksgiving, but especially with the kids, man, they want it like early October. So we got to shut that down. And then they keep asking for about a couple of weeks. And then, we kind of sprinkle it in late October, which I don't love. I was against that this year. But like Chris said, sometimes you just need the joy, So
You got to be careful with the movies too early though, because you'll run out before you get to the heart of the actual Christmas season. Before you got to start doubling up on anything that's actually worth watching. So just be careful with the movies a little too early.
That's really fair. Emily's all on the Hallmark train, and so it's just movies galore.
Julie as well.
But that's all year though.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Flames diminishing.
Hey, well, speaking of
just total facepalm moment there.
It's understandable. Well, speaking of this Thanksgiving to Christmas scene, right? Kind of a debate about when should we listen to music? When should we watch movies? Today's episode is brought to you by Merry Tunes, the company that brings Christmas music to your ears before Thanksgiving. Who needs turkey when you can listen to I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus on Labor Day over and over again? With Merry Tunes, get 50 hours of Christmas classics, including Your Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer in November, Frosty the Snowman has his pumpkin spice latte, Silent Night, both car alarm sounds, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer's Late Night Taco Run, and Deck the Halls with Mistletoe and Regret. Use the code CYBERMONDAY for 20% off your first Merry Tunes holiday playlist. Because why wait until December for all to hear your Christmas cheer? Start the chaos now and get into the holiday spirit while everyone else is still pretending to enjoy leftover pumpkin pie. Like Chris Smith. Just loves that leftover pumpkin pie.
True.
Well, let's move from the soft launch of November 1st, which I think a lot of us have come around to the Green Bay Packers, right? Go Pack Go. We all love the Green Bay Packers. It has been quite a couple weeks for us here. 3 wins in a row coming off the bye, right? We felt despair and anguish as we got tromped by the Lions at home, where Love played awful. The team played awful. Went into the bye, got healthy. 3 straight wins. 2 resounding wins at home, 38-10 against the 49ers. And then this past Thursday on Thanksgiving, just a beautiful end to the night. Defeat the Dolphins at home, 30-17. Man, there's so much to take away from the game. What is a positive takeaway for you from what you watched on Thursday?
For me, this adds up over a few weeks here. The offensive line is just dominant. I love Jim Harbaugh. I did a recent quote, it's probably from years back, I saw where he said the one position in football that doesn't rely on anyone else is the offensive line. Just whether it's Zach, Tom, all the guys up front, we're just beating guys up. We're just clear definition of us just creating holes that anyone could run through. Emmanuel Wilson has a ton of space right now, along with obviously Josh Jacobs. If we can dominate up front like that, I think we can play with anyone, hang with anyone. So I'll just say, to be brief here, but the offensive line has just been dominant lately, and it shows in the run game right now.
Yeah, for me, it's the run game. I mean, I think I've said on this podcast a few times this year that I'm worried about Josh Jacobs getting hurt and what that's going to do to the run game. But he just seems to be getting better as the year's going on. And he's almost impossible to take down on first contact. And if they can keep establishing that run game, I mean, look what they did when Love was out. Those couple games, they're just like, we're going to run the ball. And guess what? They won games. So if they can continue to run the ball and hopefully move up in the division and get a home game in the playoffs, they're going to be tough to beat. But Just their draw is a little scary to me right now.
I feel like we keep winning games despite it seeming like we haven't really reached our full potential. And I think some of that's probably due to Love, kind of being banged up in the first half of the season. Our D's been a little bit banged up too, but now Love's getting healthy. The D's getting healthy. I think we'll have Jair back for this Detroit game. And honestly, it kind of seems like we're ready to hit our stride. I'm really optimistic about the next 5 games that we have coming up to end the season.
First of all, Josh Jacobs scoring touchdowns is awesome. The more touchdowns that guy can score, the better. But Chris touched on him, so I'm going to go with just like Jordan Love's ability to spread the ball around to whoever is open. I mean, he hit 6 receivers on Thanksgiving. He seems to be really falling in love with Tucker Kraft, which I like. Julia's got him on his fantasy team, so the more that can happen, the better. But I just think we're very balanced all around. We just need Watson to catch the ball whenever he's open for wide open touchdowns, and we'll be in even better shape. So I just like what we're doing on offense and the ability to spread the ball around the field and not just have a defense be able to hone in on one guy and shut us down.
Yeah, I think for me it's 2 things. It's Quay Walker probably playing the best football we've seen in a while from him. I think at the beginning of last year, his second year, he came on all right. He actually had a couple of good games, but got injured, had some other things. So it feels like now he's playing fast. He's playing smart. Yeah, reading an article from The Athletic. When he didn't go after Caleb Williams, and that one play that I think Caleb Williams was able to convert a 4th down play, it was in the 4th quarter. In essence, he stopped because he thought, well, I don't want Caleb Williams to get outside the pocket, whatever. And I think it was asked by LaFleur, what should he have done? And it was LaFleur, Jeff Halfley, he should have kept going. And I've seen the last 2 games where he's just played out of his mind. And maybe that's partly because our rookie's out, our rookie linebacker was really good, Edgerrin Cooper. But man, it just feels like he's like taken on a new level here. And if he does that, we are a way better defense from that. And then the other thing is our red zone efficiency. I think the last 2 games, I think we're either 8 for 9 for touchdowns in the red zone or 8 for 10 with field goals on the side. And we're just playing smart football in the red zone. I think ever since Love threw that pick in the Bears game, that kind of changed or swung the momentum at the end of that first half, he's been different in the red zone. And we've also just like dominated running the ball with Jacobs in the offensive line, like you guys brought up. So lots of good things happening here.
Real quick, Phil, 11 for 15 on TDs in the red zone since the Detroit game.
Yeah, and I think we were running around 40 to 50% before that. So that
was bad.
Yeah. And still winning games because of it, in spite of it. So it's good to see that. So I think lots of good things happening. But what concerns do you guys have? Is there anything kind of moving forward that you're worried about? What would stop us from getting to our potential here?
Just a broad take. Don't think it's a popular opinion right now, but I question the competition we're playing right now. Should have easily lost to the Bears. Do not take that 49er win with any merit there. I think that's just a crumbling team right now. We were talking about that before we started today. The fall of San Francisco right now, and what that team will be like next year. Miami, definitely not the team that we thought they'd be start of the season. So I'm just questioning our victories right now, questioning, are we really up there? I think this next week is it, right? We play Detroit. You're going to see real quick, can we hang with them? Is it a tight game? Can we even beat them? But I do question if we are playing the best football. I mean, like I think you already said, Phil, about like the potential piece, but then also like our competition. I wonder how good our football is because of who we're playing right now. It does beg the question, are we really that good?
Yeah, I think I kind of tipped my hand on the first part of the question about positives, but I just worry about where we stack up in the division currently. And just knowing 3 of the next 4 weeks, we go at Detroit, at Seattle, at Minnesota. I mean, those are tough environments against teams that are most likely going to be playoff teams or fighting for playoffs. It's really going to, this is going to show who we are. over the next 4 weeks. And if we can go to 3-1, I will be even more of a believer than I am now. Going on the road's hard in the NFL, especially against teams that are really good. And our 3 losses are Philly, Minnesota, Detroit, the top 3 seeds in the teams record-wise in the NFC. So we gotta get a big win, sort of what Prem was alluding to.
So I know that Phil was referring earlier to how the Packers have been better in the red zone lately. That's still one of the things that makes me the most nervous about this team. Going into the Dolphins game, they were 18th in red zone efficiency. The Lions have the 3rd best red zone efficiency defense. So I think that's going to be the key there is when we get down in the 20 this week, are we actually able to punch the ball in and get touchdowns and get points? So still something that makes me nervous for the rest of the season.
I don't like the 3 road games out of the last 5 games. I'll agree with Chris on that one. But I think one thing that's kind of been, this is a little bit, you can control what you can control. But if we could get the Lions or the Vikings to lose a couple of these last games going down the end of the stretch, I mean, not that I don't know if it's a concern that we need teams to lose. Obviously, we can control our own destiny in that. But I mean, if we could just get one of those teams to fall off one week in one of these tight games, that would help tremendously. Because I don't really think I think we're coming into our best football right now.
Yeah, I think we are too. I think the one concern is just experience, right? I think of that Christian Watson drop against the Niners. Against the best teams, you can't do that. That can't happen. We're still a really young team. Still, I think, figuring out roles within the team, which, I mean, it feels like they're all, rooting for each other, right? It's like nobody's demanding the ball. If you look at the targets and receptions, especially from one of the receivers, it's like pretty even, almost all over the place. So I just think it's the young mistakes. You traded Preston Smith, which you wanted to be traded, and that made sense. Brendan Cox and Aaron Mosby have been awesome filling in, but I think that's my main concern is just those mistakes. And if that does happen in a big game, does it snowball? Kind of like the Lions game in the rain at home. So that's, I think, the only one I have right now, because I think, like you guys have all kind of pointed to, we've been playing we've moved into, I think, our best football of the season so far, and Love's the healthiest he's been since the first couple quarters against the Eagles. Week 1. So the Packers currently sit 3rd, and the remaining schedules at Detroit, at Seattle, versus New Orleans, at Minnesota. Like Chris said, the 3 of those big 3 weeks of really big road wins or road games, and then Chicago at the end of the season at home. Where do they ultimately finish in the division, and what's their record?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy if you look at even us winning out here potentially and not even winning the division, which could happen. Looking at the Vikings schedule, I definitely think we're gonna not win the division just because Detroit is so good. I know Detroit has Buffalo, but I think they're gonna get Buffalo, and I think San Francisco obviously not what we would have imagined at this point, beginning of the season. So I think Detroit's gonna roll. Minnesota plays Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, us, and then the Lions. Chris said it in an earlier podcast. I think we were all waiting for the Vikings to just be the Vikings and just fall apart. Have their classic deterioration that they do, and start off hot and then lose a bunch of games in a row. They're not doing that. They're winning the close games right now. They're finding a way to win. And I think we actually end up finishing 3rd in this division. And I think it's going to be a tough draw in the playoffs just because Minnesota and Detroit are so hot. I think Hayden hit it right on the nose. We just need to get lucky or something here where somebody just misses a field goal at the end of the game or somebody just gets hot against them. I mean, we just saw what Chicago did, at the end of the game, no time out there with a chance to go down and at least tie that game. So yeah, just brutal situations. We just can't find a way to get anywhere in the standings right now. But a tip of the cap to NFC North. We have just a really good division. And is that all we want? Just where they finish in the division then? Or do you want to go beyond that?
Or just what's the final record?
Final record, I think we can get up to, I think I'd give us 12 wins. He'll give us 12 wins. So the 12-5.
I agree with that. I think we go 12-5. I think we get one of the road wins. I don't think we get more than one, and I do think we win our home game. So I'll go 12-5. I don't think that's good enough to surpass the Vikings. I think they'll lose at least two. And I don't know how the tiebreakers work if we're to tie them at the end of the year. So I'll go third at 12-5.
I think it starts with division record, and then you go to conference record after that for tiebreakers.
Okay.
I could be wrong though. I'm thinking they go 13-4. I think they're going to go 4-1 the rest of the way. And honestly, I think they're going to win their next 4 games, and then they're going to sit everybody for Chicago, and that's going to break the streak against Chicago, which would really suck. But it is what it is.
I think they also win 4 of their next 5, and I think we squeak by Minnesota to get second in the division this year. Because I feel like their luck is running out. I don't know if they're a good enough team for their luck.
They are so
to just
lucky.
Keep going
that team.
so hard right now. Like even the Lions too. Like don't get me wrong, they're good, but boy, they've gotten bailed out of some games this year. It's been crazy. I mean, the Bears should have beat everybody in the division pretty much.
Pretty much.
Fair statement.
Yeah, I'm with Hayden. I'm with Maddie. I think we win 4 of the next 5, but I think we win our next 3 and then we lose at Minnesota. And I don't know why, but they're just a weird team to me where it seems like they're winning every close game. Well, our quarterbacks have played really well in the Dome. Like I think like a number of you alluded to, it just feels like Minnesota's luck is really good this year, and they actually haven't been choking games like we're used to seeing. And I think KOC is that good of a head coach. And I think their defense is legit. I don't think they have a ton of good playmakers. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But so yeah, I think we go 4-5, or if I should say 4-1 at the end of the rest of the season, and then I think that puts us in the 6th spot. Unfortunately, we'll see how it goes. With that being said, so we're either taking 3 of 5 or 4 of 5 for all of us. Are the Packers good enough to make the Super Bowl? Right, we're about 2/3 of the way through, 3/5, something like that. Do you think you've seen enough where you could say they can make the Super Bowl this year?
They can make the Super Bowl. They will not make the Super Bowl, but they absolutely can. I think given the right path, given the right matchups, I like this Packer team to get hot. But I do not believe we'll make it.
Yeah, I think being the 6th seed, which is where I have them too, I do think that allows them to win the first round. Then they're going to have to go to Detroit or Philly. And I just kind of what you're talking about earlier, Phil, about being young. Like, I just don't think we're quite there yet. But these next, like I said, these next 4 weeks are going to be telling in terms of where we're actually at.
I still think we can. We'll see.
I like to think that we can absolutely make the Super Bowl this year.
I think 6 weeks ago I said I didn't think we could. I think the last 2 games have changed my mind. And I'm not saying the 49ers were even close to where they were, but we still destroyed them 38-10. That is telling. That is a 49ers team that's pretty well coached most of the time. So destroyed them and then took care of business at home against the Dolphins. The Dolphins rallied a little bit at the end, but we felt in control the whole game. If we play that kind of football without Jair Alexander and he comes back and is healthy, I think we have a shot. Which, again, 6 weeks ago I wouldn't have said. So I'm back.
Can I put one more thing in? I think the reason I could be persuaded to say yes is because we've become so good at controlling the game and shortening the game. And against teams like Detroit and Philly who want to go fast and put up a lot of points, like I think we can neutralize that. Whether we're on the road doesn't matter, but like we can shorten the game, we can keep the game close, and then anyone can.
That playing in the cold in Philly, that reminds me of a beautiful sponsor that we have for tonight's episode. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Thermalgear. Thermagear, not thermal. Thermagear. The company that keeps you from turning into a human popsicle during those brutal Wisconsin winter sports events. Whether you're at the Packers game or just trying to survive a snowball fight, Thermagear has your back and your front. Their heated jackets, socks, and gloves are powered by the kind of magic that lets you feel your toes again, even if it's negative 20 degrees, wind chill, and you've completely forgotten what warmth feels like. Trust me, it's like hugging a heated blanket, but without the weird looks from the strangers. Sign up today, become a loyalty member on our website, and receive 25% off your first order. Because we believe that cold is just the mindset.
I've been one of those weird looking strangers, being like, why does that person have that heated blanket?
Why is he hugging a blanket?
They should have thermogear. That's what I thought.
All you got to do is go to the website, get 25% off.
What a deal.
Yeah.
Phil, are you saying that you used to wear Snuggies? Is that what you're saying?
That is 100% true, but that's a little,
Yeah,
it's a little
that.
different. It's not heated.
Great invention. It's a great invention.
It's a backwards robe.
Brave of you to admit it. I gotta say,
Hey.
brave.
Brave.
Yeah, my wife's mom made her a fleece poncho for a gift one year. Yeah, you still have it. I'll bring it next podcast. I'll wear it for a little bit.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I love that.
Hold you to it.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let's move from our beloved Green Bay Packers to the NFL as a whole. Again, every week the NFL has really good storylines. Right now, we're seeing a fantastic game between the Broncos and Who knew that Jameis Winston could actually still be relevant? It's kind of awesome. But so we're going to talk about the NFL kind of division by division. And we'll kind of pass it around the mic here where Frem will start first. I'll take the NFC North. In essence, we're going to ask each person for each division, who wins it? What is that team's ceiling for the year? And then what do you think what is the X factor for that team that's going to allow them to win the division and then get to their ceiling? So, Frem, we'll start with you at the NFC North. Who wins the division and what's their ceiling?
Definitely the Lions, like I said earlier. Ceiling is definitely the Super Bowl champion at this point. The Lions are the Lions, so I think they're going to be the Super Bowl loser probably when it's all said and done. But I think the potential is obviously there. Their run game is dominant. Jamar Gibbs, 973 rushing yards. You have David Montgomery with 720. These guys both could easily reach the 1,000-yard mark here. They have the second most offensive yards in the NFL right now, the eighth best rushing attack right now. That running game is a centerpiece of their offense. Jared Goff is on fire. People are putting his name in the conversation for MVP right now. So the Detroit Lions, I don't think I would have thought I would say this even in my lifetime, but they are a Super Bowl contender and maybe even a favorite to some. So Detroit Lions.
I hate in the NFC South.
Boy, this is actually kind of a cool division because it is so bad. I mean, I truly think and not that the teams are bad because I think the Buccaneers are a good team. They just got riddled with injuries. But I do think the Atlanta Falcons win this division with a losing record. And that has happened more often than you think. Since 2000, it's happened 3 times. The Carolina Panthers, I believe the Seattle Seahawks, and the what used to be Redskins. So, what's funny? Ron Rivera coached 2 of those teams. That blows my mind that he has made the playoffs twice with a losing record.
Wow.
But I think Atlanta does, and I think they do it with a losing record this year, and I think all they can live for, their ceiling, is their divisional championship. They will get blown out by whoever they play in the first round. And the only reason, they don't even have an X factor. The X factor is the rest of the division is garbage. That's why they win. They're 6-6. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's not really a winning. Bad. There's not a winning record in that division right now.
Man, it's crazy. Maddie, NFC East.
I can't believe that I'm saying this because after a couple of weeks, I thought that their coach was going to get fired at some point this season. But honestly, the Eagles feel like a Super Bowl contender at this point. They've won 8 in a row, and it hasn't been a bunch, against a bunch of cupcakes. It's been against a bunch of good teams. And honestly, they have the potential to grab the number 1 seed. They have one more road game, and it's against Washington on the road. But they have Carolina, Pittsburgh, Dallas, and New York Giants at home. Honestly, it feels like a team that could run the table and have 5 straight wins. to have a 2-loss season. They're great on D. They basically drafted a bunch of players from Georgia's 2021 team and put them on their defense. Saquon is awesome. He's their closer, and their O-line is great. Brown and Smith on the outside are a great 1-2 punch at wide receiver. Honestly, Hurts is the X factor. It's just like, what are you going to get from him? Is he going to, when it's nut crunch time, is he actually going to show up? I think that's the biggest thing for them.
All right. Nut crunch time with Jalen Hurts to the NFC West with Chris.
Yeah, this is a hard division because they're all within 2 games of each other. I think this is a division we looked at before the season and said, all these teams can make the playoffs. And we're 13 weeks in, and they all can still make the playoffs, just not the route that we thought it was going to take to get there. I am picking the Cardinals, and I admittedly do not feel great about the Cardinals winning the division. I was just going through their schedules. They're all pretty rough. But the Cardinals have Seattle at home, so that's huge. They're behind 1 game right now. So if they win this weekend, they have then New England at home. Then they go to Carolina, who's playing better, but they should win that game. Then they go at the Rams, tough game, and then home against San Fran, who might just be shutting it down at that point. So I don't think the Cardinals have an X factor. Actually, they're struggling if you watch them right now, and they couldn't close that game out against Minnesota. But I don't see a team in the NFC West that I think is going to take control of this division, so I think it's all going to come down to schedule. And if they make the playoffs, I think they're getting bounced round 1 by Minnesota or Green Bay.
All right, I have the AFC North, and the division winner is going to be the Steelers. I really can't believe I'm saying that. I thought their defense is going to be good. Russ could be all right. And, man, they have just blown the water out of, I think, what anybody kind of expected for the team. They've won 3 of the last 4 games. They lost a weird game in Cleveland in the snow. That was a fluky loss. Otherwise, they beat Commanders in Washington. They beat the Ravens at home, and then they beat the Bengals at the Bengals this past week. And they put up 44 doing it. So they show they can win a shootout, which I think, if anything, that's what we almost needed to see from the Steelers in order to really believe. And so I think, for me, I think they win. I think their ceiling is the AFC Championship. I don't think it's the Super Bowl. Some people might disagree with me on that. I think Russ has looked really good. I just don't know if they have enough weapons. I don't know if their offensive line is actually good enough. It's decent, but I don't think it's to the level of the Bills or the Chiefs. And I still am not sure if I trust Russ fully yet. Put up the 44 really quality wins here in the past couple weeks. But I think the Bills or the Chiefs are still better. And so I'm going to put the AFC Championship as kind of their ceiling. And their X factor is the defense. At any point, really old guys like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward, Minka Fitzpatrick can make huge plays for the team. And so if they generate turnovers against some of these top teams, maybe they have a shot to go farther. But it feels like that's the thing with them, right? They still gave up 38 to the Bengals, right? So then the Bengals are insane offensively. Joe Burrow could be an MVP candidate if their team didn't have 8 losses. And so to me, it is still the defense here that's going to take them the farthest that they can go. Friend, bring us around to the AFC South.
One up you, Hayden, with the AFC South, the worst division without any doubt in the NFL. This team has to send one team to the playoffs. I think Houston may stumble and have barely a winning record. So maybe that isn't maybe that's a little bit better than the NFC South here, but the competition below them is pitiful. The Colts are trying to put something together right now with the reboot of Anthony Richardson right now. But even if they win out, they have a really long shot here to try to win that division over Houston. And so by default, I think Houston's going to win that division. And, they're battered up. Obviously, they had Nico out. Now they have Diggs back. Stroud isn't what we thought he'd be this year. Their offensive line isn't there. Their defense is not formidable, if I can say that tonight. And then I definitely think they're going to lose in the wild cards. Probably Baltimore, maybe Pittsburgh, if Baltimore takes the AFC North. So Houston by default.
You got the East, Hayden?
Yes. I believe the Bills clinched that yesterday, right? So I'm going to pick them to win that division for sure. Also, no, but for real, I think the Bills are an absolute wagon this year. I think they are the best team in the AFC. Surprisingly, not that I don't even know why I'm saying this, but I kind of think that the Steelers are the second best team in the AFC, and that makes me sick because like Russell Wilson is just the most undeserving guy in the world for that. But the Bills are absolute Super Bowl contenders. The Chiefs are still the Chiefs, but I think that the Bills have a better chance than anybody to win the Super Bowl this year. And Josh Allen is an absolute maniac athlete that any team wishes they would have drafted over anybody right now.
Before we move to Maddie, why do you hate Russell so much? I don't think I actually know this about you.
Well, I mean, besides crushing the hopes and dreams of Packer fans over multiple years when he played arguably his worst football ever and still beat us. But the icing on the cake is when they beat us in the NFC Championship game, and he said that God made him throw 4 touchdowns in the game so that he could throw a touchdown in God made him throw 4 interceptions in the game so that he could throw a touchdown in overtime to win. And I almost put my fist through my TV listening to that. So
yeah, that is a really dumb comment.
Just hate him. He's just so annoying.
Yeah,
here's a Subway sandwich isn't even that spicy. The Danger Witch, it's not even that spicy.
Here's what I'll say. I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you.
It's good to see him have a decent comeback because I think some people thought
that he already won a Super Bowl.
That he shouldn't be a Hall of Famer because of the way he's playing. Well, okay, but all I have to say,
you think he's going to make the Hall of Fame?
I mean, yeah, I do.
Yes.
If Eli Manning makes the Hall of Fame, which he probably will because he has 2 Super Bowls,
he's going to make the Hall of Fame.
Russell should. All right, well, we can talk about that another podcast. But
bad day.
But I'm kind of happy for him in that way. But yeah, he gave us a lot of pain for a lot of years. So it was not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun. All right, Maddie, take us home with the West here.
I have to say this real quick. I saw probably one of the best tweets ever about God and sports and how people shouldn't mix the two together. This guy said on Twitter that he thinks I totally agree. I find it silly when players talk about sports related things being God's plan. And the guy said, there's no God between the hashes, brother, which I think is just one of the most perfect things to say about football. And
well, Russell Wilson will tell you different.
Right, he will. All right, the Chiefs. I mean, obviously they're a Super Bowl winner potential. They have Pat Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. They have Travis Kelce. They have a solid defense again this year. I don't want to pick them to lose ever, but man, it's tough. They're making it real tough this year. They're 9-1 in 1-score games this year, which just screams out that they've had an incredible amount of luck this season. Honestly, my X factor for them is, when does that luck run out? When do they have like a devastating injury? Like that, and just honestly how mid they have been on offense this year is the other X factor for me. Like, are they saving all of their stuff for the playoffs? Are they keeping Kelce on ice until the playoffs? Like, time will tell. Nobody really knows right now. But something that I do know is that their win against the Raiders on Black Friday last week was straight up sorcery. Like, I have no idea how they won that game. I guess other than the Raiders being one of these most incompetent franchises in the NFL over the last 20 years. That probably helps. Gosh, I don't know. We'll see with this Chiefs team.
Yeah, it's like them and the Lions and the Vikings have won the weirdest games this year. It's like gross the way they've won games. I'm with you. All right, well, we have the division winners, but we want to hit at 2 wildcard teams that we think could be formidable and talk about how we see them. So Chris, you go the first one here.
Yeah, so mine, I think they will win the division, is the Buccaneers. I actually think they're getting healthy, and Baker Mayfield is legit and keeps them in every game. Honestly, if you look at their schedule, they play Vegas, Dallas, Carolina, and New Orleans as 4 of their last 5 games. So I think they could realistically go 4-1, which easily would win them the division. Hayden talked about Atlanta. And they're just not a team that you want to see in the playoffs. Like, I would feel very uncomfortable if the Packers have to go to Tampa and win a game in the playoffs because we know the game will be close and it's going to come down to not making mistakes. But the one thing with Tampa that I don't know if people are paying close enough attention to, unless you're into fantasy, is that Bucky Irving is a stud running back. And he runs hard on the ground, but he can catch balls out of the backfield. I think a couple of games ago he had like 70 yards receiving. This last week he had about 140 yards rushing. Between him and Rashad White, I think that's making up for the loss of Chris Godwin enough that now Mike Evans is back. Like, they're a team as a Packer fan, I do not want to play them, and their schedule lines up really well for them to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
Thank you, Gardner.
We have demons there, man. We cannot win there in big games. So I'm with you. I don't want to play that team. Because it feels like anytime everybody's down on Baker, he has like an amazing game. He's like that kind of player. Yeah, so I'm going to take the last wildcard team here, and we could talk about different teams as well, but I'm going to talk about the Vikings. One, this is, for me, I think the biggest rival. I think if you live in southeast Wisconsin or kind of mid Wisconsin, maybe the Bears are that for you. For me, it's the Vikings. And I feel like I want to talk about them because I've never seen them this consistent in a way where I trust them. When they had Kirk Cousins in that 13-3 year a couple years ago, I still just felt that was fluky. I didn't actually feel like they're going to be that good. They have a defense now that plays really aggressive, plays really fast, generates turnovers, makes big plays when they need to. And so I think for them, I think their ceiling is NFC Championship. I think if they had a better QB, I think they could get farther. Just because they have Darnold, I'm not so sure. And we've seen Darnold kind of come back to earth here the last 5-6 weeks. It feels like anytime he needs to throw it to Justin Jefferson in a big play, they make it. And I think that's why they could win 1 or 2 playoff games. But yeah, I think for them, NFC Championship makes sense. And I think the X factor is this: they're underrated and overlooked. Everybody's talking about the Eagles. Everybody's talking about the Lions. Has KOC been in the conversation for head coach of the year? Maybe he has. Maybe in Minnesota airwaves. But when it comes to national airwaves, nobody's talking about them. Brian Flores was a head coach, now defensive coordinator. He's turned that defense around. They've looked really good year 2. I just think they're underrated and overlooked. Like, they're going to cause problems for whoever plays them, and they could beat the Lions. They could beat the Eagles on a weird day where their defense just plays out of their minds. I think, to me, they're just one of the more interesting teams in the NFL because it feels like they've been lucky and won these weird games, and yet it just feels like they know how to win close games, which in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, that is an advantage. And so, yeah, they're kind of the last one we want to highlight here. Speaking of X Factor, tell us about our newest sponsor here.
The segment was brought to you by X Factor, the sports drink that gives you the edge to outplay, outlast, and leave everyone else wondering what kind of superpower you've got. Whether you're sprinting to the end zone, dominating in a pickup game, or just trying to beat your buddy at flag football without pulling a muscle, X Factor is here for you. Packed with electrolytes, natural energy boosters, and just a hint of I'm about to make you look bad, X Factor doesn't just hydrate. It transforms you into a performance machine. It's like having an extra gear that only kicks in when you're about to make that game-winning play. This December, head to xfactorsportsdrink.com and take part in their holiday power-up event where that purchase enters you for a chance to win a year's supply of X Factor, because nothing says holiday spirit like being unstoppable for 365 days straight. X Factor, the only sports drink that helps you give 110%, even if that extra 10% is spent questioning your decision to lace up your cleats.
And as we all get into our 30s, we may have thought that at one time or another.
I was just going to say, I think we're all there.
Gatorade make a Gatorade X Factor?
I think they did. I'm pretty
Good
sure they
point.
did.
Could be some infringement going on here.
Knock on wood. Nobody has torn their Achilles or their ACL in their 30s, have they?
Looking at Chris.
Too
Stop
soon.
it.
No, it's just Chris.
Were
Too
you
soon.
30? Were you 30 yet? Or were you
Well, I
29?
was definitely in my 30s.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
just
you
something
can-
that
you can
happens.
lie to people.
Was it your ACL?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Pickup basketball, classic. That is
You're
the
back
time
to-
that those injuries happen.
Don't
You're
tell me
back to
that. I still play.
100% though, so that's all
What
that
did you
matters.
do for those 6 to 8 months that you couldn't really move?
Nothing. It was awful. And that was also when COVID happened, so there was no live sports. Like, I literally got hurt at the
Cool.
worst time. Like, that was my opportunity to just sit and relax and watch sports all the time. And I got nothing.
You
That's
could still
brutal.
walk though, right? You
Yikes.
just couldn't.
Yeah,
like,
you can. You can walk
move
pretty
left
quickly
and right.
after. And in fact, like, the rehab was pretty fun. It just, like, you couldn't cut. I couldn't play
Yeah, couldn't
basketball
play your-
for a year
play your
plus.
whatever.
That was brutal.
And how did it start, like, starting to do that again? Like, were you kind of questioning your moves, or?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
To this day.
I still think about it every time I jump. Like, I gotta land perfectly straight down. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you wear a brace?
No.
Well, maybe think about it, bud.
Thanks, Gardner, for rehashing that memory.
You know,
I said that, and as I was saying it, I was just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Chris has." So my
somebody in
bad.
this group.
Sorry,
has torn
I'm
their
really
Achilles.
sorry.
X Factor.
Yeah, it's all because of X Factor.
Yeah,
Gosh.
get some X Factor.
We love X Factor, though, here on the show.
we do.
Friend of the pod.
Well, let's move from Chris's ACL to around the world of sports. Now, in past segments with this, we've just done weird things, right? That we're kind of into on the side, or things we're playing or watching. We just know there's a lot that's happened with sports, especially the last month here that we were on hiatus. And so what we want to talk about is just kind of the general feel of each of these sports and what's happening with them, what kind of stands out to us. And so we're going to start with college football with Frem. So take us away, man.
Yeah, I said it earlier, the 12-team playoff coming your way. So how this is going to work, the first 4 seeds get the bye, and then they're going to play out from there. So you're going to get like an 8-9, et cetera, et cetera. What is it going to be, a 5-12 matchup? So I think, it's going to be pretty exciting. For example, right now, I think I was seeded. So like a Georgia as an 8 would play a Tennessee as a 9, then going to play Oregon in the next round. So I think these matchups are just going to be loaded and really exciting, and I think keep us on the edge of our seat the entire way. Hoping for some upsets. I'm waiting to see if there's going to be a college football playoff bracket, if people get into that like they do March Madness. So I'm kind of curious if there's hype around that. I'm sure there's going to be sports betting around that. Right now, though, you have the championship weekend coming up here. You got Big 12, which I don't think too many people are into the Big 12 since they realigned, but you have Arizona State against Iowa State, Big 10. A little bit of a downer. I think people were maybe waiting for the big matchup between Ohio State and Oregon, but you're going to have Oregon against Penn State, SEC, Texas versus Georgia. Those can be your 3 big matchups to highlight there. I think I left out the ACC. I think Clemson is playing SMU. I don't know if that's going to quite bring the hype, but I think this format is really going to draw the fans in, and just seeing, the drama that plays out within this, seeing how these championship weekends kind of play out, and seeing how the committee looks at these championship weekends and how they weigh that with the seeding and whatnot. But like I said, that it's really going to be exciting, I think, how that works with those 4 buys as well. And, does that give those teams an advantage? Are you still going to end up with kind of the chalk at the end right there? So, as we've talked about in previous podcasts, the NIL, the transfer rules, just think there's going to be a lot of hype around getting your team to the playoff, getting a chance to play for a championship right now. And I think this is just going to drive more players to different schools, trying to build up a super team just to make a run at the playoff here. So I don't know if you guys have any other points or questions on college football, but that's just kind of the brief overview of how that playoff will look. And these championship games, I think, are going to bring up a lot of hype leading into it.
I have a question for you, From. What's your stance on Notre Dame? The university deciding to not join a conference, and to me, essentially, as long as they have less than 3 losses or at 3 losses, they're going to almost automatically put him in.
Yeah, I saw Chris comment in the chat right there. I have to agree that in this format and this layout, I think this gets into a bigger conversation of why don't they just blow up conferences, or why don't they just have, I don't know, some type of like regional matchups and just basically just have one big wide open conference, or even I get into what I think European football is doing, and just do like some type of relegation system. I think we've talked about that before. Notre Dame should be in a conference, I think, just for practical purposes. I think that's kind of a ridiculous piece of the puzzle where it's like, okay, well, you have this one independent team, then can play whoever they want to play. You don't see this in basketball. I don't know why. I mean, I think it comes down to whatever politics or TV contracts and whatnot. But Notre Dame should be in a conference. I don't think, if we're going to conform to a 12-team playoff, we need to conform to some type of parameters around this as well. So, yeah, it's a good question, Hayden.
I think they should, if they don't want to be in a conference, I think that they should just get randomly put into a conference every year. And like, if they don't want to pick one, you got to at least go somewhere for the year for the schedule to count. And you just get bounced between the top 5 conferences if that's the way you want to do it. Like, if they want to be that stubborn and, be a nice Catholic university that won't move because they make so much money on a TV endorsement that they don't even want to be a part of a conference, I think you should get seriously penalized for that in the rankings.
There should be some like loss of control to their schedule. Like, you have to play 2 Big Ten teams and 2 SEC teams and whatever, 2 Big 12. Like, you have to then just like play certain conferences. Like, I agree, Hayden. I think that would be a great way to like kind of stick it to them and be like, fine, you don't want to play by the overall rules of this, then fine, then you have to play certain teams, and we're gonna kind of control who you play.
I mean, I guess they kind of do that, right? Because they are ineligible for a first round bye, right? Because they can't win a conference. So I mean, the highest they can ever be ranked is 5th, which, okay, that's cool, but like, you're still ranked 5th, and that's I think we're gonna find out this year that 5th is one of the best spots you can be in the bracket because you play the number 12.
Yeah, I think you hope that the college football playoff is all based on merit. But we also know
and it's never been that.
Right. We know this is a TV show. Who's going to bring in ratings and who can we justify? So could 4 SEC teams make it? One of those being a 3-loss Alabama or Georgia? It would not shock me because it's a TV show. And Notre Dame generates 2 or 3 losses. They probably will be in a lot of years, and it's not good. I'm with you guys.
I mean, the Big Ten's going to get 4 in this year, I think.
Good point.
Yeah.
So, and just bringing it back, a little nugget I had to clarify. I was looking at, so the Power 5 conferences, the highest ranking conference champion gets an automatic bid. Doesn't get a bye necessarily, but they get a bid to the 12. So, it is interesting how it's set up for them.
Yeah. Should be fun. Should be interesting, especially the 12-team playoff. We've just never had it. So it should be fun. And we get to see a team like Indiana, see what they can do against one of the bigger boys. Chris, talk to us about men's college basketball, particularly Wisconsin, which has been very fun.
Yeah, not the conversation I was expecting to have on December 2nd, but the Badgers, who were preseason ranked to finish anywhere between 12 and 17 in the Big Ten, is currently 8-0, ranked 11 in the nation. So, I mean, this is a huge year for Guard. I mean, he came in on the hot seat. I think we talked about it at length last year. Like, this is sort of a make or break it year. And he lost some really good players. Chucky Hepburn is kicking butt at Louisville. Connor Season's tearing it up at Nebraska. Like, it was just hard to envision if they were going to be able to fill those spots. And Guard, who is like a savant at like finding wings on his team, went out and found John Tanji, who was out all of last year, so his name kind of fell off the radar. And he comes in and he just looks more physical and more mature than anyone on the court, can get to his spots. I mean, he's averaging, I think, 22 a game right now, and is getting to the line at will, which I know frustrates a lot of people. But this team, like in terms of just watching them this year as opposed to last year, they're so much more connected. You can tell they're having much more fun. I think losing Storr was actually a really good thing. I don't think he was good for team chemistry. But this team, like, if you watch them offensively, they set ball screens like you've never seen a Wisconsin Badger team do, which is all Kirk Penny, kind of cooking up the offense. But they just run so much more fluid. They're averaging 80 points a game, and I don't think that's fluky. I think they're going to continue to average 70 plus a game throughout the Big Ten. So obviously 8-0, beat Arizona at home. It was a weird game because there was a ton of free throws hit, but the Badgers led the entire game. And then they just went to West Virginia last week. And pretty nice tournament. They beat UCF, who is decent. I don't know how good they'll be throughout the year. And they beat Pitt, who Pitt, I believe, is ranked top 5 in the net right now. So that was a huge win in a neutral court game. So Badgers sit 8-0, but here's the thing. Like, their schedule's only going to get tougher. They have their first Big Ten game, home opener tomorrow against Michigan. Michigan's coach is Dusty May, who was at Florida Atlantic, which I think we all know. He's a good coach, and that team got a lot better. Then we go to Marquette on Saturday. Marquette's ranked in, I think they're in top 5 now.
Number 5.
Then we go at number 5. Then we go at Illinois, and Illinois is playing really well. And then we go at Butler. So this month is really going to kind of tell where we're at. I don't think we're a top 25 team, but what I do think is that we will be extremely competitive. I think we're a tournament team. And we have some players on our team that, like Kamari McGee, who's just a role player. To me, we talk about, let's go back to our sponsor, X Factor. To me, no pun intended, but it's Xavier Amos. Like, if Xavier Amos can start to like find his role in this offense, he's a 6'8" wing. He's going to be the difference if this team like actually takes it to the next level or not. So they're passing the ball really well, getting a lot of assists. Defense is getting a little bit better. This next month is really going to tell us who the Wisconsin Badgers are. But it's been a heck of a start to the year. And guard is no longer on the hot seat. I'm taking him off.
I think the only thing that, I still hesitate or pause is we've started really well the last couple years. 7-1, 8-1. I know it feels different this year. It does feel different. And we are scoring at a rate that we've never scored, which is just awesome, right? And it feels like our players are coming together. But yeah, I don't think he's, I don't know if he's on the hot seat, but I'm still tempering a little bit.
I hear you. I just think they've actually adapted their offense. Last year, they were kind of in between, but this year they've officially adapted. Like I said, if you watch them, they just set ball screens all the time, and it's all about spacing, which is what basketball needs to be in 2020.
Yeah, totally. Matty G, give us some. All
right. So I'm going to try and do this in as quick and efficient of a way as possible. So I'm gonna start a timer. I'm gonna start it at 2.5 minutes, and let's see if I get there. All right, Milwaukee Bucks guys. They were 2-8 earlier this month, or earlier in November, and had some, I would say, putting it lightly, very curious performances in the first 3 weeks of the season. Basically, they looked like crap. Since then, they're 8-1, should be 9-0. Their schedule has softened up a bit. They've had like 8 of their last 11 games at home. So that has contributed a bunch to their current hot streak, but they've looked better. Here are here are 5 things that I've noticed so far during this win streak, or during this hot streak. Giannis and Dame have been awesome. They're averaging 59 points per game between the two of them. Giannis is leading the league in scoring right now. Dame is putting up 7.8 assists per game, which if the season ended today, that would be the second best mark of his career. Their 2-man game has looked better this season. They looked like they're a little bit more connected on pick and rolls, and that just bodes really well for the rest of the season. Number 2, AJ Green and Andre Jackson Jr. are regulars in the rotation, and Bucks fans have been clamoring for this since last season. Finally, Doc Rivers has relented and played these guys more. Andre Jackson is their best wing defender and their most athletic player on the roster. Meanwhile, AJ Green, who is affectionately known as Derry Bird, He is a solid defender and is shooting 48% from three right now on pretty good volume. I think he's taking about 5 or 6 threes a game. Number 3, less Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton. I love those guys. I'll never forget what they did in 2021, but they're diminished role players at this point. Connaughton can't move on defense anymore. He's actually racked up 5 DMPs lately. Portis, he's been better as of late. He's not as much of a black hole on offense as he was earlier in the season, but he's still a sieve on defense. So less minutes for those guys has been really good for the team. Number 4, everyone has just been playing better. Brooke Lopez has been better. Gary Trent has come back from the dead. Torian Prince is hitting 52% of his threes. And the 2.5 timer went off, unfortunately. So I didn't get it quite within 2.5 minutes here, unfortunately. Lastly, number 5, they're doing all this without no Chris Middleton. And in classic Bucks fashion, we have no timetable on his return other than he's close. We also have no idea what he's going to look like when he gets back. When he left us last year, he was on 2 injured ankles and putting up 44 in the playoffs against Indiana. So I'm hoping that he is taking some extra time off here to get his body right before coming back, because he had a real gradual ramp up last season that got interrupted by some ankle injuries. So all in all, I'm a lot more optimistic about the Bucks right now than I was in early November. That's for sure.
Who's watched an NBA game this year? Raise your hand. I've watched like part of one. It was an NBA Cup game.
We'll get you guys there someday. Hopefully.
I was interested in the Cavs when they were like 15-0. That was crazy. That was awesome. And they're still legit.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move overseas here. I'm going to talk some English Premier League. If you haven't started watching, you should. It's really good every week. Good storylines. This is so much more accessible than it was 10 years ago. It's incredible. Yeah, it's worth talking about Liverpool. They're top of the table in the EPL. They have 34 points. They're 9 ahead of anybody. They have a new coach this year named Arne Slot. Arne Slot. It's a great name. And they've just looked so good. Their defensive record is insane. And they lost their top goalkeeper. Their second goalkeeper is just as good. Mohamed Salah is 32. He's probably right now the EPL player of the year. He could also win the Ballon, meaning the best, kind of the MVP of all of soccer in the world. He's that good. At some point, you got to think they slow down a little bit, even give up some luck goals, that kind of thing. But right now, they're playing incredible soccer, incredible football. And then you have Arsenal at 2. And then if you go all the way down to 13, it's only about 6 points difference. It's like Liverpool has been so amazing. And everybody else has been good, but not great. Arsenal has 25 points. Chelsea has 25 points. They've looked a lot better than I think what people expected. And then you have Brighton at 4 with 23, and Man City also at 5 with 23 points. And it's worth talking about Man City here. They've won the last 4 EPL titles. They've lost 6 games in a row in all leagues, in all formats. That's never happened with Pep Guardiola, who some consider probably the best coach of all time, even better than Alex Ferguson from Man U. They've lost 6 in a row. They lost their central defensive midfielder right kind of at the beginning of the year. And they had, I think, gone unbeaten, meaning they either won or draw in like 60 straight games with that guy playing. It's like kind of insane. They lost him for the year, and they just haven't looked the same. Erling Haaland, who's this like big Norwegian, in essence, like so fun to watch, kind of like Zlatan Ibrahimovic 2.0. He's not finishing everything like he's been doing the last couple of years. And so, yeah, they're 5th in the table at 23 points. It's astounding to me. It's kind of crazy. Man U, they're like another kind of classic top 4, top 6 team. They fired their coach. They got a new guy named Ruben Amorim. I think I pronounced that right. Comes from Sporting, which is, Portugal. And, he looks to be like a really good coach. They won 4-0 against Everton, bottom layer team, whatever. But all to say, They're going to be, I think, a formidable force coming for the rest of the year here. We're only at what's called match day 13. There's 38 of them. Each team plays both teams twice, one home, one away. So we got a long season here. But it's been really fun. It's good to see Arsenal not be that great. Or they're okay, but not to be amazing. And man, if you're looking to be on a fun teams to watch right now or teams to root for, I mean, I love Chelsea, of course. Nottingham Forest with Nuno, who are just playing really good football. Tottenham, who play a really high line, and they scored the most goals in the EPL. They've also given up a lot of goals from new fan. And you want to avoid Aston Villa and West Ham. Those are the two teams to avoid. Newcastle's another one that's pretty fun to watch, and they come from a really good city to watch football.
Phil, go for it, Gardner.
What do you got?
Is it bad if I want to cheer for Liverpool?
No. I do not like them. They're actually not a rival to me. And they come from, again, they're kind of a classic team, top 4, top 6. They are a really well-run team. So, no, but that would be bandwagony of you.
Okay.
Just saying.
Phil, my question is, does Man City have a shot to win, or are they too far down? I mean, I know they're 11 points out, which that can swing, but like, are they good enough to win the league again? Because what are they? They're coming off what, 4 in a row or 5 in a row?
They've lost 6. I mean, 4 in conference. I mean, it's pretty early. They're 11 points down, which is a lot, but it's not crazy. I think the mystique of Man City is gone, though. Meaning, I think for a long time, people would go in, can we beat them? Especially the Etihad, which is their home turf. And now it's like Tottenham beat 4-0 at the Etihad. I mean, it was incredible. And so I think the mystique is gone. And so I actually think this year, no. I don't think they'll win it this year. Will they still make top 4? I believe they will. Because they still have so much talent on the team. And they could definitely invest in the January window. But yeah, it's just crazy. I've never seen them be this bad in probably 10 years. So it's just crazy.
Who the heck is Brighton and Hove Albion?
Yeah, they're a super fun team.
I'm looking at the table right now, and I've never heard of that team in my life.
Yeah, the last 5 years, they've been not like a force in the EPL, but a team that's been pretty good. And they've actually sold a lot of players. They had a lot of talent. They sold a lot of guys, made a ton of money. And they just kept trucking, man. They have a great academy, all that kind of stuff. So they're a team that's fun to watch. If you want to jump on a team to root for that's kind of a little bit out of nowhere, Brighton is the team to pick.
Is Burnley going to go back up in relegation this year, or are they going to be stuck down?
I don't know what the championship table is right now. They play even more games than the EPL. I think they play 45 or 48, so it's early on. But I mean, Vincent Kompany was the head coach there. He was famous center back for Man City. He's now at Bayern Munich. He's on one of the best teams in the world.
Did they fire him, or did he just get let go after contract?
No, he jumped. So he got.
He was just out.
Yeah, he was just out. Yeah. So
he's like, I'm not going down. I'm not getting relegated down. I'm going to stay back up.
It was pretty smart. It was pretty smart. He tried to play really progressive football. He tried to play really aggressive football, progressive, attacking minded at Burnley, and they just don't have the talent compared to the rest of the EPL, and so they gave up a ton of goals that didn't work. But for a really good team, it would work.
JJ Watt's got to start throwing some money at Burnley, man.
Yeah, man, that's what all these owners can do, man. It's crazy. Well, hey, let's transition to kind of our new sponsor. Gardner, do you want to tell us about Own the Future?
Absolutely. I love this commercial. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Own the Future, the investment company that's like that one basketball team that's always rebuilding for the future, aka the Nets. Sure, they're not winning championships right now, but they're definitely stacking up assets for a big win, eventually. Give them 5 years and a couple of high draft picks, and suddenly they're the team to beat. With Own the Future, we take your investments and treat them like a long-term game plan, because sometimes you got to tank for a season or two before you can finally make that winning play. You won't see immediate results, but trust us, in the future, You'll be dunking on all your friends all the way to retirement. Own the future, because the present is often overrated.
And we're gonna.
I love that. I love that just because it plays into the Bucks.
Just
Own the
like the
future
Mets.
was their motto for a while, probably like half a decade ago. I love it. I love it. Great sponsor.
Don't know if I'm
Thank you.
investing.
Own the
but
future.
We'll see. I invest in sponsorship.
Well, we're gonna move from the future, which is all really exciting for all of us in our 30s, to our past. Meaning, we're gonna talk about the top 5 favorite comedy movies that we often, I think, a lot of us grew up with. And it felt like for all of us, this was a really difficult exercise. But I'm excited to see where you guys are at, how you got there. So let's do this. Frem, let's start with you. We'll kind of go right to the right of the list here. So we'll go Frem, Hayden, Matty G, Chris, and then myself. Lay out your 5, Frem, and then tell us about one of where you put it.
So mine weren't really even in order, but I guess this works. I just kind of put 5 down that I thought were iconic. But Big Daddy, Liar Liar, Big Lebowski, Semi-Pro, and Superbad. A lot of these, just looking at which ones kind of got me into comedy, different parts of my life, different things like that. So many references. My brother-in-law got me into The Big Lebowski, the dude. And I just think that there's certain comedies you just have to watch to just, I don't know, they're just frame of reference, just flavor of comedy. The dude in The Big Lebowski, just something else. It's not my jam. I grew up on Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy type stuff. But that kind of opened my eyes to a different genre of comedy and what could be, and kind of a, I think where my brother-in-law, being a decade or so older than me, was into. So really appreciate the opportunity.
Hayden.
Was that me now?
It is you.
Okay.
believe.
My list here, we got Super Troopers, classic, Slammin' Salmon, kind of a hidden gem from the same guys that made Super Troopers, Broken Lizard. If you've never seen that movie, holy cow, it will blow your head off. Club Dread. Okay, so this is another one from the Broken Lizard guys and Super Troopers. They have made so many ridiculous movies, and Club Dread, without minus Super Troopers, this is probably my favorite Club Dread or favorite Broken Lizard movie for sure. Happy Gilmore, because I kind of threw this one in there. The more I was going down this list, I was like, man, Adam Sandler's getting beat out a lot with other movies that I cry laughing. Not taking anything away from Adam Sandler movies, they're all fantastic, but Happy Gilmore was one that was absolutely iconic. And then I kind of threw a curveball in there. Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. I don't know if you guys have seen this with Zac Efron and Adam DeMamp from Workaholics.
Devine.
And then I think it has Adam Devine. And then it also has Anna Kendrick's in it. And I can't remember what the other girl is. But it's kind of a new age comedy that kind of was an homage to what comedy movies used to be, cutting edge, a little, walking that fine line, but they kind of brought it back after the 2010s, and it was really, really good. But I'm pretty confident in this list. I mean, I pretty much just went off of movies that I almost pee my pants laughing watching, and those guys, man, that Broken Lizard crew, I think just is so good. And they do other stuff besides movies too, but man, if you ever get a chance to watch Club Dread and Slammin' Salmon, yeah. I just bought that movie randomly drunk one night, Slammin' Salmon off Amazon, just because I was like, I don't have a DVD copy of this and I need one. Showed up 3 days later, and I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome.
How many times do you think we watched Club Dread together?
Dude,
it's got to be in the 20s, right?
Well, at least. I mean, it's so good. I just had a hard time not picking a Broken Lizard movie. Because, I mean, I left out Beer Fest. That movie's incredible.
Wow.
That's another one. I think those guys are the pinnacle of comedy movies.
Maddie, what you got?
So I have no particular order here, but the two movies that that I laughed the hardest at in theaters were Step Brothers and The Hangover. So I would be remiss to not mention those. I think my favorite Sandler movie growing up was Happy Gilmore. Waterboy was in second. But like Happy Gilmore is just iconic. I need to give two shout outs to a couple lesser known movies perhaps that we probably have all seen. Out Cold is just an unbelievable comedy. One of the great snowboarding movies out there with just, an early Zach Galifianakis performance. My favorite line is, "Who's Jacuzzi Casanova?" "That's him right there. He was all up in her, loving it strong." "Thanks, Stumpy. No problem." Classic. Just classic. And then I can't not mention Blue Streak, peak Martin Lawrence. It is my brother-in-law, Mitch Klingman's favorite movie. Yo Tango, El Gato, and Los Pantalones. I think you just told those guys that you had a big cat in your pants. I'm a federale. A federale? Yeah, I could go all day quoting these movies. I love these movies. Honestly, you could stretch favorite comedies out to 10 at least with me, because I'm not even throwing in like Superbad or 21 Jump Street or some of the other really, really good ones from the mid 2000s. Wedding Crashers, there's so many. Dodgeball, there's so many good ones from the mid 2000s. Great era for comedies.
That was good.
Out Cold.
That was good.
Well done,
That was
Carter.
awesome.
I have to follow that.
I have it on DVD because I watch it. We go on a ski trip to northern Michigan, Mount Bohemia. Hayden, you should go this year. And we watch Out Cold every year up there. I bring the DVD player up there with me to watch it.
I used to watch it before going snowboarding every time I went snowboarding. It was just like, made me so happy. Lance, you don't have to
my list.
Come on.
13-year-old, 14-year-old Chris would be very disappointed that Anchorman did not make my list, but it's sort of fallen down the list over time. My number one, the most quotable movie for me is Forgetting Sarah Marshall. I still quote that daily, and there's always a time for it.
Chris,
Two is super. Yes.
Real quick, it's not Forgetting Sarah Marshall. It's Forgetting Brandon Marshall.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up. Yeah. That team won me a championship.
Yes, it did.
My number two is Superbad. I just think when that time came out, we were around the time of being in high school, and it was just perfect, and it still holds up really well and super raunchy. Three, sort of underrated, I Love You Man. Paul Rudd, Jason Segel. It is an incredible movie, also extremely quotable. This is where it got hard for me. 4 was Wedding Crashers, and 5 was 40-Year-Old Virgin. I love both. I feel gross that I left Jim Carrey off my list because he was my childhood.
Oh my gosh.
But I just didn't know where to fit in like Dumb and Dumber, or like Friend You Put Liar Liar. It's a great pick. Or The Mask, or Cable Guy. This is the hardest list I've ever created, and it's going to inspire me to go back and watch all of these over the next couple months, and it's going to be wonderful.
You mean after
need
Christmas?
an update.
After Christmas, right? You gotta.
Yeah, after you're done with the Christmas.
After the Hallmark Channel goes back.
Yeah, right. That's all year, but yeah, this is hard for me too. I don't think I'm like as crazy into comedies as some of you are. Like Chris, Maddie, now with Hate It. Like I know you guys are like all in. For me, this is all nostalgia, right? Because I still like comedy movies. I still watch them, but man, it's thinking back or going back, or when I watch these movies again, it's so good. Number one, the Super Troopers. That'll always be all time. I didn't comment on the Broken Lizard stuff. They're incredible. They are so funny. And Super Troopers just will live on for me. I still quote that movie and don't even realize I'm quoting it because I've quoted it so much. It's one of those, right? Number two, Billy Madison. Another Adam Sandler classic. This one just always. I just think it's so. I think it's so funny. It's so funny. It's been a while since I've seen it. I almost need to go back and rewatch this, like Chris said. But yeah, Adam Sandler is just classic in that movie. And that's kind of the one that started it all, I think, with Adam Sandler. Like that was before Happy Gilmore. Like this is kind of the OG of Adam Sandler. At number 3 is Office Space, which none of you talked about yet. But Office Space, man, it's just good. It's
a classic.
It is so funny. And the music is awesome. I think that like plays into it.
A lot of type of humor.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 4, Superbad. A lot of you guys brought up. It still lives up. And then number 5, and this is the first one I think of all that genre, is Old School. And that's Will Ferrell. That's Frank the Tank. That's the earmuffs. There's just so many good like things that we look back to, but this is kind of the first movie like that. And so this is awesome. I'm really glad we got to do this kind of go back memory lane. And I feel like I know you all better because of this top 5. Like even somebody bringing up The Big Lebowski, which is just a classic movie. I've never actually seen all of it.
Great movie.
But yeah, it's kind of awesome. Okay, Chris. Tell us about Frozen Touchdown here.
Yeah, super excited. Obviously, this top 5 was inspired because we have a new movie coming out, which hopefully can live up to some of our lists, but I'm not sure. It's 2024. Who knows? Tonight's top 5 is brought to you by Frozen Touchdown, the wildest road trip comedy of the year. When 5 college friends drive across the country to watch their beloved team's championship game, they quickly discover that freezing temperatures, snowstorms, and some very questionable decisions make for one hilarious adventure. From crashing a bachelor party ice fishing trip to hijacking a snowplow to clear their path, these friends will do anything to make it to the game, even if it means playing Truth or Dare at a 24-hour diner, getting stuck on a frozen lake in a rental car, or accidentally starting a snowball fight with an entire rival college sorority. Frozen Touchdown hits theaters this weekend, so get your tickets now and prepare for the coldest laughs of the year. Who needs a straight path when you've got wild decisions, snowmobile chases, and a group of friends willing to sacrifice a few limbs along the way?
Can't wait for that flick. Hopefully you all have the AMC
Sounds gonna be
pass.
great.
Sounds like a mix of a bunch of hilarious movies I've seen in the past.
It's a good recipe for success.
Harry and Kumar. That is a great one.
We were just talking about adventures in the
White
21st
Castle?
century, and I'm just like,
I know. So there's a Ben Stiller movie when he's real young with
Heavyweights?
no,
That's
a
so
great
good.
one, though.
Heavyweights is so
how did we not get Ben
good.
Stiller on our list?
That
How did
should have
we
been
not- how did
on
we
it.
miss him?
Yeah, what's
Dodgeball.
the one where he gets the beans above the Franks caught in his zipper and he has to go to the hospital?
Oh, that's
Something about Mary.
about Mary.
Something about Mary.
Classic.
Oh my gosh,
The
Brett
Brett Favre
Favre.
appearance. Legendary.
Matt Dillon is so good in that movie too. Oh my God, he's absolutely hilarious. That and Along Came Polly are the two
Yes.
Ben Stiller ones
Yes.
that I
That's
was
a really
like,
good one.
Yeah, we didn't have any.
Man.
Sandy Lyle.
We didn't have
Philip
any
Seymour
Ben
Hoffman,
Stiller
baby.
on this list.
I know.
25
I'm
movies.
really sad about our list right now.
Yeah.
It's really, really
Yeah.
sad.
I want to redo
'Cause,
mine.
I mean, even Meet the Fockers is so good.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, Meet the
so
Parents. Meet the Parents.
good. Yeah,
Let's
Meet
be
the Parents,
honest.
I'm sorry.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
OG is so good.
Can I just give a couple more honorable mentions before we go?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Role Models, which I let Phil watch with me. Great
So
movie.
That was good.
Solid.
Dude, Where's My Car? Fantastic
Very
movie.
good.
That's great.
Very
Dodgeball.
good.
No one said Dodgeball.
Yeah,
No, I
that
don't
should
know
be
why
up
we have
there.
the Dodgeball.
It's honestly, it is probably the movie that I quote most often in my
Right.
life. Is
It's
Dodgeball.
so good.
It's really
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
More. We got Knocked Up,
Oh, that was good.
Grandma's Boy, which is also a classic.
Grandma's Boy is so good.
It's so good.
Pineapple Express.
Pineapple Express, all the American Pies,
Oh, I know none of these. movies.
depending on your humor, Borat or Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Euro Trip, fantastic
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Euro Trip
Scotty
is
doesn't know.
Scotty
so
doesn't know.
good. The
And
fact
then it
that
goes
that's
on.
Matt
Step
Damon.
Brothers. Did anyone say? No, yeah,
we got
did.
One Step Brothers.
Yeah, we
Hot
did.
Rod with
Yes.
Hot Rod.
Yeah,
That's an
Howrah.
incredible movie.
Andy
Zoolander,
Samberg.
Mm-hmm.
Talladega Nights. I mean,
Yeah.
it just goes on and on. It's incredible.
That's
What
my
happened to those
boy,
movies?
Adam Sandler. Is absolutely ridiculous. Little Nicky,
A Little Nicky.
absolutely ridiculous. Like,
I mean, we know
just
we know Carl
wild.
would have put Mean Girls on his list.
Yeah.
So good.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Gosh,
Mean Girls
man.
are fun.
Honestly, so
I got to
good.
remake this list.
I know.
Also,
it's incredible.
Also, Pop Star. If you're an Andy Samberg fan, go watch Pop Star.
Yeah.
It is underrated. Yeah.
Dude, when his turtle dies, oh my god. So, and he just like sends him out into his pool.
That's right.
And then the flame goes out, and then the
Oh my
party
God.
continues, and everybody just jumps in.
Guys, it's so good. It's so good to be back. This needed to happen a lot
It
sooner.
Great to be back.
Let's start with another 5 weeks. All right.
Okay.
We'll come back to you Monday. Is that what we're thinking now? Mondays.
Sounds great.
We're
That
here.
works for me.
All right, DeMarco Murray. We need more of DeMarco Murray here. We should each get a DeMarco Murray jersey. Has he played? How many
Different
teams has he
team.
played?
See, I'm doing a worried about Ray Allen jersey.
Hmm.
So
Well done.
That's for you, Matt Kendall.
great
I think
song.
That's for you.
Great song.
We could do a Fitzpatrick. Everybody just could get 2 jerseys of
Oh my
of
gosh.
Fitzpatrick.
It's magic.
That guy
Magic.
freaking went everywhere.
Dolphins,
Yeah, what was it, like
Jets.
11 teams?
the Bills,
That'd be awesome,
Titans, Buccaneers.
man. It's good.
It's insane.
Well, hey, if you got to the end of this podcast, that means that you love us and that you actually thought it was worth listening to. So we appreciate you if you got here. Can't wait to talk about the Packers win against the Lions, right? Packers wins against the Lions
Yes.
on Thursday. It's going to be awesome.
I think they
Don't
can
give us
win.
that thumbs down, friend. Don't do that.
No, we're
Don't
not
be the
gonna
hater.
win. Losing.
I think I'm actually going to pick the Packers. I don't know my confidence. It's not going to be high, but I think I might pick the Pack. We'll see. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.
Pack up.